Hey guys, I'm Elliot from Lunarch Studios,
Hey guys, I'm Will.
and we are two of the Prismata developers, and we wanted to talk to you today about a change that we've recently made to one of the units in the random set in Prismata, this unit called Shadowfang, which used to cost 6 and 3 red, and we recently nerfed it to 7 and 3 red. And we're going to explain a bit about why we did the nerf, and we're also going to show some cool, interesting rushes that you can do with Shadowfang.
Yeah, so it turns out that originally when we priced the unit at 6 and 3 reds, we knew that it was beatable and defendable with only the base set. But it turns out that in practice, for a lot of new players, it's very difficult, and it's also very frustrating to lose to like a blind Shadowfang Rush where your opponent doesn't even buy any drones. They just go straight to Shadowfangs, and if you don't know how to defend properly, you're going to lose. So even though in theory, I think it maybe doesn't need a nerf, just in practice, it's definitely a lot less frustrating for new players because nerfing it by 1 gold will stop a lot of the early rushes.
Yeah, and we saw a lot of new players once we gave out beta keys actually play these Shadowfang Rushes, and other players would lose to them and they would get really tilted about it. So we did nerf it by a gold. But I'm going to show you a bit about what some of those rushes are. And before I start, I want to say that even though the rushes are defendable, and we're going to show you how to defend them, we're not even 100% confident that the rushes are defendable in the context of other units also being in the random set. Like maybe if there's something like Husk, another red defender, or Frostbite or Shiver Yeti, some of the chill units on red, or maybe the other sort of rushy cards like Grimbotch and Electrophore, maybe these types of rushes are actually unbeatable, and we definitely don't want that. So as a safety precaution, we nerf Shadowfang.
Yeah, and even if they're beatable, they might only be beatable in the context of also getting Shadowfangs yourself and trying to beat them just by defending by enough and then getting Shadowfangs of your own. So we didn't want too many games to degenerate down to a red mirror match.
Yeah, so there's actually 2 different rushes that you can do depending on whether or not you go first. So one thing that we saw people doing is actually just turn 1 Animus. And it seems pretty dumb, but you can actually put up a decent attack with this that's hard to defend. So let's say the opponent just gets 2 drones, and then you get another Animus. And if you want, you can actually just store 6 gold on your first turn and then put down 2 Animus on your second turn if you want to do this. It's basically equivalent. And let's say you do something, I don't know, standard, say, Drone Blast Forge.
Yeah, so the reason why that's standard is because you're anticipating the Shadowfang on the next turn, so you're going to build a wall to defend for 3 against the Shadowfang.
So Shadowfang attacks for 2, so every Shadowfang you buy is going to increase your attack potential by 2. So here, the player going first bought a Shadowfang, another threatening 2, so the other player could say, defend with a wall. And what a lot of players would do is they would say get an Animus just to try and get Shadowfangs of their own, or to try and get Thurs or something like that.
Yeah, so that's not a very good play just because you have 2 food drones sort of to support both the Blast Forge and an Animus. But it's still it still seems a reasonable thing to do. You've got 6 gold and you want to buy a structure, so buying an Animus seems reasonable.
Yeah, so a lot of new players would sort of fall into this trap and end up in precisely this position, and it's pretty much a losing position. So I don't know, what do you want to try? We could do a Steel Splitter Rhino.
Yeah, there's not too much you can do here. I mean, your best bet against Shadowfang in general is the counter attack, because the Shadowfangs, if you just try to defend forever, they're just going to pile up and keep attacking. And the weakness of the Shadowfang is it costs 3 red, which forces you to get double Animus. And that probably means you're not getting too many other structures. And the Animus is probably the worst structure for defending. It's the worst branch of tech. So usually the player with the Shadowfangs has very poor defense. So the way you exploit Shadowfangs isn't to defend forever, it's actually to counterattack. So, units like Rhino, even though it's a red unit itself, are actually, in theory, very good counters to the Shadowfang, because they have prompt, so they can defend right away, and then they can attack the next turn, which sort of seizes the attack away from your opponent.
Right, so I'm just playing sort of a pretty standard, simple build that somebody might play to try and counter... Sorry, that was actually bad. I'm going to go back. I need to attack with my Steel Splitter. That somebody might just try to play to counter Shadowfangs. And it's actually it's pretty tough to make any progress because the person with the Shadowfangs can just sort of like keep building rhinos and defending while they have 3 Shadowfangs. And with 3 Shadowfangs, they're attacking you for 6 every turn, and you're spending almost all your resources just like building defenses to defend against those Shadowfangs. So yeah, this basically can be pretty tricky to defend.
Yeah, I mean, the lines here, it is complicated, and, if the Shadowfang player messes up, they could still lose. Like, it's still a close game here in some sense, but overall, like, I think a rush of this sort where you don't even get a single drone, you just get animuses right from the start, it shouldn't be doing as well as it is in this position. So, I mean, it's still a close game here. I think Elliot is just quickly playing both sides by himself, and, there's still a lot of decisions to be made on both sides. Definitely the game is still hangs in the balance, but yeah, so they can maybe sneak into 4th Shadowfang here, and if they do, then that'll probably be enough to put it away. But possibly the other guy could have made sure that he could.
It's pretty close, right? Because in situations like these, one player will breach the other, and defense gets really tricky. Like, maybe you have to defend with drones.
Yeah, you might have to just do that.
Yeah.
And then it's just very cutthroat here. But here you're going to lose your Thurs, so I think it's probably still over.
Yeah, maybe.
Because they have an engineer, so I don't know what you're going to do. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Essentially, the Shadowfang Rush is so sharp and so difficult, and there's a lot of variations. If you want to just completely put it away and counter the rush entirely without any risk of losing, there is a build order that you can play that fends off this type of rush. And so what you do is when the other player goes Animus, well, I think, Drone Blastforge is still reasonable, right?
Yeah, no, I think that's still the best opening here.
But then after the first Shadowfang, don't lay down an Animus. Don't do like a wall Animus. Instead, get a Conduit. Because the Conduit produces green, and you can use it to get these force fields up, which are really efficient defense. And you can get Gauss Cannons as well to sort of execute a counterattack. So...
Yeah, I mean, the key premise here is, you're getting to around 12 drones, which is enough to build 2 units a turn. You can build either a Steel Splitter and a Gauss Cannon, or a wall and a Gauss Cannon, and later, if you have greens left over, you can get force fields. But the point is, you're getting 2 units a turn, and it's nothing that special. Like, it's a somewhat intuitive thing to do. You're just pumping out 2 units a turn, and you will defeat the guy with Shadowfangs who's only pumping out 1 unit that's incapable of defense a turn. But yeah, like, this is not that intuitive. If you're not used to like timing an exact build, then you might not go down this line. But yeah, so here all you need to do is just play fairly standardly, make sure you get enough defense, and pump out units whenever you can. And here you should have your economic superiority should be enough to pull through.
Yeah, I can even get another Steel Splitter here.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to, but just spam
engineers.
Probably, yeah. Like this, the rush is actually going to get defeated pretty easily, just because, like, the 2 colors, green and blue, are the colors that most efficiently can defend. And also you have enough resources left over to counterattack. So
yeah, and the thing is, your troops are so strong, even if the other guy breaches first, they're still going to lose as long as you eventually breach, because your attackers are all Steel Splitters and Gauss Cannons, and it's not like they're going to wipe them out quickly after they breach. So it doesn't even matter. Like, you don't even need to play that carefully in some sense.
Yeah.
There's room for mistakes, and you can still win.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, essentially what's going to eventually happen is you'll breach and kill the Shadowfangs. And I didn't necessarily play optimally for both sides, but the point is that if you go Blastforge Conduit against this Shadowfang Rush, you're going to completely crush them. Now, that is not actually the most serious Shadowfang Rush we were seeing. The version that we were seeing that was actually griefing people way more was a rush for the second player. And what they would do is on their first turn, normally you drone or drone conduit or something, they would just get a single drone and store 4 gold in the bank, which looks kind of weird, but okay, let's say you play on as usual, maybe drone, and then double Animus on their second turn. And then, in response to this, players, they might like drone Blastforge, or they might like Blastforge Animus. And if you Blastforge Animus here, you're just going to get owned. It's not even close. Because you can, like, I don't know, wall Thurs here or something like that. But your opponent's just going to get up, is just going to get up a ton of Shadowfangs really fast. And there's not too much you can do.
Yeah, so note that the key here is on this turn, the Shadowfang player can get a Shadowfang and a Rhino. Post-nerf, when it costs 7, they won't have this luxury. So note that the nerf does indeed slow down both rushes by a lot. So in the first rush, it involved the first player with only 6 drones never getting a drone. Obviously, with Shadowfang costing 7, that's not going to be possible anymore. And for this rush, you can still execute a similar rush, but it's a lot weaker when you can't get that crucial prompt Rhino on the right turn to defend against your opponent's first attack. So this nerf should pretty much make both rushes impossible, or at least without the support of other cards, very, very unplayable, and definitely not something that even a noob would lose to.
Yeah, so here you can get in a situation where, you have 5 Shadowfangs up, and you're attacking for so much that you're just forcing your opponent to defend with drones. And, you can just comfortably build Rhinos and defend yourself against their sort of Tarsier counterattack, which isn't nearly enough. And here, the guy on the bottom, the player who went first, is just going to get owned.
Yeah,
because there's no way he's not going to get breached and lose. So, that rush is really strong, and we saw a lot of people lose to it. Again, you can counter the rush by going blue-green, and I'll show you how to do that. So here your opponent drops the double Animus. So the best move here is actually drone Conduit Blastforge. Just immediately get to blue-green, and you're almost in the exact same situation that you were in when you were defending it against the other color, where you have 11 drones and one of each of Conduit and Blastforge. Your opponent's in sort of a stronger economic position, but they're a turn behind in their Shadowfangs comparatively. So what do? You'd say wall Gauss Cannon maybe?
Yeah, and this is sort of a very inconvenient turn for them because they can't Rhino this turn and they desperately want to. I mean, I think getting the Shadowfang is still more important, but not being able to get the crucial Rhino on this turn hurts them so much. Because now they're going to lose an engineer, and just in general, they're going to start crumbling a lot sooner. And when you're the Shadowfang player, really the thing that matters is how late you can crumble. The later you crumble, the better off you are, basically. Because the Shadowfangs are just such an efficient attacker for the rest of time. They're going to just keep attacking, and they're going to attack for a lot. So you just got to hold on for as long as possible.
Right. So, it's essentially there are 2 bad choices. If we had 1 more gold, then we would have enough to Shadowfang plus Rhino. But here, we can maybe Shadowfang plus Tarsier. I don't think that's even that good. It's probably better to just, get an engineer or something.
Yeah, I think probably something like that.
I mean, you could also double Rhino, which isn't that bad. But, what you really want is to get another Shadowfang. I mean, we can try double Rhino. If you get a Shadowfang, you're going to lose an engineer. But your opponent just has a lot of counterplay now, like Steel Splitter Drone Engineer, maybe.
Yeah, I think that looks
pretty good.
To me.
The Rhino defends. And so this turn you can Shadowfang. You can maybe attack for 1 more.
Yeah, get an engineer.
But it's definitely
now you're just a step behind. So because the other guy can just get more attack. Yep.
Yeah. So let's see. Do we want to attack with 1 more?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, for sure.
And not this one, right? We want to maximize our threat for next turn.
I think so, although it's actually very non-trivial because getting one of the Rhinos to 0 means you can use it completely as a meat shield sooner. So it's actually an interesting trade-off. Whatever. I don't think it matters that much, and we don't have to micro-optimize it now. But
I mean, here I probably just want to get another Rhino.
Yeah, I think you know more Shadowfangs, and I think you can maybe sneak in a 4th one eventually, but it's...
Well, if I leave 3 in the bank, the next turn I'll have enough for Shadowfang Rhino. So we can try that.
We can try this.
Although we will have another Rhino defending, so it may not be necessary.
I think you want the engineer, because you're going to lose the engineer this turn, and if they attack for an even number again, the engineer will help you.
Okay, so what do we do now? Wall force field, I guess? Or we're going to kill a Rhino.
I think you want Gauss Cannon
the
for
the 8 is a lie. Yeah. It's actually a 7.
Yeah.
So let's get another attacker.
Yeah, you want attackers against Shadowfang. Even it should be Elliot in the replay. So the blue-green player, their objective should be to make both sides crumble faster. If they had a way to give both sides 5 attack, it's definitely to their favor.
For sure.
You want both sides to crumble faster here.
Now, do I want to attack with this Steel Splitter?
Probably.
Kill
in general, you want.
And then I
want
to
to
just
speed
block
up the
with my own
crumbling.
drones.
Yeah.
And build more engineers. Now that there's a 4th Shadowfang, there's a lot more pressure. But this player on the bottom, I mean, the fact that they have Conduit means they have access to Force Field, and Force Field is so efficient when both sides are crumbling because you're going to block with drones anyway. You might as well upgrade them to be able to block for an extra 1 health. So I think we have to do that, right? Because we don't want to lose both rhinos.
Yeah, I think there's you have to. You can't let them kill.
I defended inefficiently there. I can actually keep the drone alive.
Yeah.
I think maybe we didn't even need to leave it back.
Maybe. Whatever. I don't think it matters. You're probably winning by enough that.
Yeah, because here I'm going to definitely kill a rhino, so there's actually no need to leave a drone behind. And yeah, this is going to be over in a couple of turns.
Yeah, because you're not. Like the red player is just crumbling faster. And I mean, even if they weren't, even if the red player crumbles 1 turn after, I think they're still going to lose just because the blue-green player's troops have so much more health. Like I think for the red player to win, they need to crumble at least like 2 turns later or something.
So anyway, yeah, the rush is definitely beatable, but it was griefing so many people. And like, let's say Shiver Yeti or Frostbite or Husk was also available. The following is an issue that those units help the rusher, but they actually provide no assistance at all if you're going blue-green, which is sort of the natural path in order to defeat the rush. So it could be that, strengthened by the presence of those other units, this rush actually isn't beatable. And we definitely never want to have a situation in Prismata where there's some like auto win for the player who goes second or the player who goes first. And even though like it might be really complicated to actually determine how to execute the auto win, we still don't want it ever to be a possibility. And it felt really close for us, so we nerfed Shadowfang.
Yeah, and even at its nerfed cost, it's still one of the most efficient attackers in the game. I mean, it should be because it has so many weaknesses. It forces you to commit to double Animus, and it only has 1 health. So if you ever get breached, they just die immediately. So, it's still going to be bought all the time, just not as scary in the early game as it used to be.
Yeah. So I think that's everything, right? Thanks for watching our video.
Yeah.
If you're interested in like more rushes or more like early game strategies, Will's going to be putting out some other videos on that and some articles on relating to rushing strategies and attacking in Prismata.
Yeah, and let us know what you guys think of the change. Anytime we make a change in gameplay, we want to hear what players think. So
yeah, you can leave a comment in on YouTube, or you can just talk to us on Reddit. Okay. See you guys
thanks,
later.
Guys.